Before we get to LibWatch, I think I'm going to start it off with the Seltzer poll. And we're not talking about the Alka-Seltzer, okay? Now, something big, something very big people were waiting on, okay? People were waiting on something real big. Can you explain why Mike from PA seems to take all pro-Trump data as fact and all pro-Kamala data as fantasy? I don't think he does that. I think that anyone who tells you that they are exclusively doing poll watch and not like doing vibes-based analysis on top of that is lying. And I don't think Michael from Pennsylvania would tell you that he's just straight piping the data. He's adding a degree of vibe check. He's vibe checking the data. Okay? And that's normal. I do that too. That's precisely the reason why, and I've said this already, that's precisely the reason why I have said time and time again that in spite of running a campaign, like I kept telling libs to fear not, okay, and that ultimately Kamala Harris is probably still going to win in spite of all of my criticisms of her campaign. I've said this for months and months. The closest I've gotten to thinking that the election might change in favor of Donald Trump was a couple of weeks prior, where the momentum swung so heavily in the direction of Donald Trump, you know? And I think that this does not mean that like Kamala Harris is absolutely 100% going to win. You know, you would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have given Kamala Harris a chance as a much higher likelihood as I did. A great example is almost every poll has AZ Trump like +2 to -4, but the demographics, population growth, voting patterns, and ground game all heavily favor Kamala. So it's at best tilt or toss up. Depends on Phoenix turns out in the end. That's it. People read too far in either direction. Polls only versus other data only. I think I have a pretty healthy balance in this. I look at the polls. I do a little bit of poll watching, but then beyond that, I also do a little bit of vibe checking. And so far, especially with this with the Seltzer poll coming out of Iowa, which I'm going to get into right now, my attitude has been fairly correct. I still maintain the position that Kamala Harris is winning in spite of her bad campaigning. Okay? Make no mistake. Many people will turn around and say, what do you mean? You're so critical of Kamala Harris. Like, you're wrong. She's going to win if you think she's going to win. Or maybe she wins and then you're going to be like, well, Hasan, I told you so. Like, she was going to win. She did a good campaign. You were wrong. It's like, no. It's not just about winning. It's about how you win. It's about what margins you win with. It's about what base of support you are capable of activating in that process. And I think Kamala Harris should not even be on shaky ground at this point. That's my point. That's my issue. This should not be a close race. The road to Harris leading in Iowa, yeah, she's probably going to send some people over there now that this came out. Like, once you saw the polls not move after Trump got shot, you've been saying it's Kamala's election to lose. I mean, Trump gets shot. He's going up against Joe Biden. Trump is still going to win. 100p. It's so obvious that he's still going to win. It's so obvious that he's still going to win that like Joe Biden has to drop out, right? After that occurs, Kamala Harris made up like 10 points. It was crazy in a matter of days. And then they just cast aside all that momentum for no reason. My entire Twitter feed turned into Twin Pool level 49 state landslide. No, that's stupid. That's stupid. That is silly. And I think people are discounting how much momentum there is still for Donald Trump. But I assume people are just like joking anyway. I don't think they're being serious. But yeah, Seltzer's considered the gold standard, except she was demoted to the silver standard, I believe, for one of the caucuses that she did not participate in. Even if her poll is wrong, right? Like, she has a pretty solid track record. She has a incredibly strong track record of being off by like basically 1 point. You know what I mean? That's the thing. If you look at like her last Iowa poll versus results here. I mean, this is a good example. 2022 Senate R plus 12, R plus 12. 2020 president R plus 7. Turns out it was R plus 8. 2027 R plus 4. Turns out it was R plus 7. 2018 governor D plus 2. It's R plus 3. 2016 president R plus 7, R plus 9. 2014 Senate R plus 7, R plus 8. 2012 Senate president D plus 5, D plus 6. So as far as like pollsters goes, I mean, that's pretty. So governor is always going to be different. The gubernatorial race is unique, but beyond that, I mean, this is as reliable as you can be. You know what I mean? There is nothing you don't get more reliable than that in terms of polling. And also, yeah, the average Iowan voter just seemingly loves when the Democrats don't have a ass president. You know what I mean? Iowans are basically like, give me a black Democrat. I don't want I don't want no I don't want no white boy. Okay, what the is this shit? Which is funny because it's like 98% white. They do. This is 2 for 2. Okay. That's where I disagree with you. Ours should be, by all accounts, absolutely crushing Dems, massive inflation, economic unrest, globally incumbent parties trash because of economic stuff, border unrest. The baseline. No, this is not a normal raise. What are you talking about? Yeah, if Nikki Haley was running right now, it would be Jover. The f*** do you mean? This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is maxed out on his base of support and has a very limited avenue to pick up new people. Okay, he was the president. He won once. He was the president for 4 years, and then he lost. It's over at that point. People have made up their minds about him. I think that's crazy to say Kamala winning is a wild upset. That's insane. If it wasn't Donald Trump, you are 100% right. But it's not. It's not someone else. It's Donald Trump. So if you're going up against Donald Trump, a person who already lost an election, okay, a person who already lost an election, yeah, it's pretty nutty that it's like this close. I cannot comprehend how anyone, you are a sellout unless you react to Candace Owens' podcast series covering Kamala's ethnicity. What? That's awesome. Yeah, dude. I don't give a What are you, crazy? I mean, look. This could have been better for Donald Trump even against Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. And he keeps reminding everybody how he is Donald Trump. And this is what I said about the Iowa poll, right? The Des Moines Seltzer poll. I said, look, you got Roe v. Wade, massively consequential. You got January 6th, okay? Which isn't necessarily like a threat to democracy or whatever, because like pollsters show that's not the top priority at all. But it actually spells that he's like a sore loser and really narcissistic, which reminds everybody what they don't like about Donald Trump, okay? That's important. That is absolutely important. You got JD Vance, massively consequential pick, massively awful pick for Donald Trump. That's a base pick. You already had the base. Good luck on that. You have tens of millions of dollars wasted on anti-trans ads. Shows that their priorities are in the wrong direction. Shows that they literally think that these are the top priorities. It's like, you're stupid. Just talk about the economy, jackass. You idiot. Talk about the economy. Talk about how you're anti-war, but you won't do that because you're Donald Trump. Then you have anti-immigrant screeds instead of messaging discipline on economy. Dog tariff plan, which was effectively countered as a mass sales tax, which I really liked. Kamala Harris's campaign has had a couple big W's. That was one of them. Okay. On the communication front, that was a very, very effective way of deflating the whole tariff thing because it was objectively a stupid economic policy anyway. Threatening to use the military on enemy from within, and these are the results. Every normie lib I know thinks the anti-trans ads are effective. I don't know why. Just stop talking to liberals, please, okay? The reason why normie liberals think it's effective is the exact same reason why they think Kamala Harris is brilliant for tacking to the right. Because they're one, stupid, two, terrified of Republicans, and three, they kind of like Republicans at the same time. Okay? That's why everything liberals advocate for, everything liberals talk about comes from a place of fear. Okay? Yeah, here it is. Seltzer poll has Trump with just 28% of senior women and losing senior men by 2 points straight into the garbage. Similarly, this guy is saying it's thrown into the garbage. I don't think it's garbanzo at all. I think it's valid. I think the normal whites theory is undefeated. Normal whites don't like this shit, okay? Need a good Seltzer poll on top of the survey plus the Kansas R plus 5-1 to fully establish a Trump KKK collapse narrative. Ohio polling, where there's no real incentive to herd, corresponding with the Washington primary more than the rest of the Rust Belt, it has been noted. Like, that's crazy. Ohio being only +3 is crazy. I think that a lot of people are annoyed with the way that Donald Trump and his silly ass hogs operate. Okay? And I know there are people in here who voted for Jill Stein. There are people in here who are like objectively not voting. How much do you hate Donald Trump and his stupid ass supporters? If you feel that way, then yeah, you think people who don't give a about Gaza are not feeling that way? Of course they're feeling that way. It's like very little to do with people going out and voting for Kamala Harris's wonderful $50,000 in tax cuts for startups policy, and everything to do with, I don't want these freaks anywhere near a position of power. Okay? That's it. MAGA is claiming Diddy paid wait, what? And Seltzer, you're an embarrassment. Was the Diddy paycheck really worth it? And Seltzer, after P. Diddy invites a random Iowa pollster to his ring parties for some reason. Okay, so there's a 56-year-old woman here. The reason I was turning blue is abortion. Yes. Abortion is yet another obviously annoying Trump thing, okay? People are annoyed. People are mad. People are grossed out by the way that the Trumpian Republican Party operates. This is literally not anything different than the 2022 midterm red wave turning into a baby puddle. It's the same shit. The only difference between that and what's going on right now, and it's not like this isn't in the bag. I know that like libs are doing victory laps as though like the election is over, they're going to win, whatever. It's still close. I don't think people understand. It's still a toss-up, in my opinion, but I still favor Kamala Harris on it for how badly Donald Trump has presented himself this entire time. He's done no convincing whatsoever that he would be different somehow, or at least like try to remind people of all the good stuff about how the economy was good when he was president, and instead doing like the worst campaigning possible by sucking the microphone and complaining for 45 minutes about like audio people, or just being a racist piece of shit that is really annoying and people don't respond positively to. I live in Kansas. I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas goes Kamala. Momentum is huge here, and Kansas remembers defeating the what? No, I don't think Kansas is going to Kamala. That's nuts. Harris has to be up 10 to 12 points nationally for this result, and she's simply not. I don't believe she's winning senior men in Iowa, or that over 55s are voting 10 points left of under 35s. Polling is just broken. I don't know how to process this at all. They voted down the abortion bill, though. Yeah, but that was separate. Is there a ballot measure in Kansas for abortion this time around? Final New York Times polls, Edinger Momentum was waiting on them too. Shows a tie in Michigan and PA. So, here's the deal. While the liberals are doing victory laps over the Seltzer poll, this is also why I'm saying that it's still a close race. I think that it still favors Kamala Harris, but it's a close race nonetheless. And the only reason why it's a close race, and I know Lib Dejder is going to get very mad at me for saying this, but it's because Kamala Harris has not done enough messaging and communication beyond harm reduction for the base voters. You can't rely on the base specifically because you're a younger black woman and then assume that they're going to come out and vote for you in droves. That's it. That's it. That's the only reason why it's a close race. Donald Trump is an unimaginably bad candidate. He is not a strong candidate. He's a bad candidate. Okay? JD Vance is also not great either. This is why I said she should have been communicating a different message forward for the black voters, brown voters, young voters in general. Okay? But she didn't do that. She didn't do that at all. And these are some of the consequences. If she does not bring the same margins from the Philadelphia base of support, young voters, college educated voters, like voters that are going to college, college students. Like if you don't get turnout from your base, you're kind of cooked. It makes things infinitely closer for no reason. And that's where we're at. And I think that's why these polls are showing this insane tie this close out. Anyway, how late will you be planning on streaming the election night? The entire election night. I'm going to be streaming everything. Mersheimer and Jeffrey Sachs both state Trump will be better on Ukraine. You guys were all screaming copium yesterday, but Trump is literally lesser evil voting. Yeah, I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be quote unquote better on Ukraine because America's position on Ukraine is not motivated by like an interest in stopping the violence or whatever, or even defending Ukraine. It's motivated by, as Zelensky correctly pointed to, the Scranton, Pennsylvania artillery shell facility that we created, or numerous other factories that are now manufacturing additional weapons. Okay? This is it. That's what it is. America has ramped up production and manufacturing in an effort to continue doing war. This is very positive for the military industrial complex. It's just not going to happen. You're not like Donald Trump is not going to put an end to that. Okay? Like I think people say that because they also legitimately think that he's like in the pocket of Vladimir Putin and he'll just like carve out parts of Ukraine for Russia and just say, we're not giving any more guns to Ukraine. But the reason why we're giving guns to Ukraine is not because we are interested in Ukrainian emancipation. Sure, I think that we're interested in, having political influence over Ukraine as a way to wither away our foreign adversary in Russia and as a way to make sure that we have influence over a massive country that's like very close to Russia. Okay. But more importantly than that, real reason is money. And I don't think that Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form is going to make a decision in the opposite direction. Okay, here's a tracker of all states with an abortion item on the ballot. My past responses were to you about the stuff you said, lol, if you give a I'm not on about it. I just don't agree that issues are number one, number two with this community are actually important outside of our bubble. There are leftists and Gaza single issue voters, but they're much smaller percentage than people here think. No, I don't say that. Like when I talk about Gaza, I don't say that like Gaza is a single issue that is going to turn this election. What I say always is that Gaza is important enough. And not only is Gaza important, but Gaza is a gimme. Okay. It's a gimme. It's not only the morally correct position, but it's a gimme. There's no one that is motivated. Have you shown Missy the oh my God, I will vote yet? No. All right, let's continue. I'm not mad about it, law. I just don't agree that issues number one and number two with this community are actually important outside of our bubble. No. That while there are people in this community that will not be voting for Kamala Harris over this reason, in terms of the way people make this calculation, I have time and time again said that it's a gimme in the sense that it would change the calculation. It would change the way that people are responding to her. It would help her. It would help her look stronger on an issue. It would help her literally separate from Joe Biden, and Michigan would not be as close. Okay? There are leftists and Gaza single issue voters, but there are a much smaller percentage than people here think. I do think she should have played the base more, but her strategy, in my opinion, was a good one for a year where fundamentals were anti-D. No. And I didn't mean just Gaza. It was bad phrasing. There's a lot of big issues here that are lesser outside of the U.S. I think that her communication on immigration has also been bad. And that is something that I think they recognize as well, which is why in Phoenix, she presented a very different attitude on immigration when talking to a bunch of young Mexican and Latino voters in Phoenix, where she was like, immigration is, we're gonna do something about amnesty. Like, she's not the U.S. outside of us in this community. Yeah, she did the we are children of immigrants that Democrats remembered for some reason, which is something that I've said before. Like, if you want more support in the Sun Belt, like, you have to, you can't have this attitude. Anyway, my point always was, okay, that this race should not be close because of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is ass, and that much is 100% correct. Donald Trump is an ass candidate, and he doesn't have the juice that he once had. He has no way of like presenting himself as a moderate. Like, he's not doing a good enough job with that, and he's trying to pick apart in this incredibly limited base of support that he has. He's trying to pick apart like conspiracy voters, and that is a notoriously unreliable type of voter to try and win over. Okay, they will support you. They'll go out and say they love you, but will they go out and vote? We'll see. Yeah, I'll clap them. Get the away from America. America, stand behind me. I'll protect you. Anyway, let's take a look. Let's do some poll watch, and we'll talk about seltzer.
Chief Rick Klein is here with our latest poll with Ipsos. And this race, Rick, I mean, it is as close as ever.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Our ABC News Ipsos poll has Kamala Harris just out this morning in 49-46 lead over Donald Trump. That's just a tick tighter than last week when we had the lead at 4 points, but it's all well within the margin of error. And narrowing into the 7 battleground states, guess what? Nothing changes. An identical lead, 49-46 across the 7 battlegrounds. But inside the individual battlegrounds, we still see a little bit of a different story. These are our 538 polling averages. Harris leading in Michigan and Wisconsin, but by less than a percentage point. Right now, trailing narrowly in the polling averages everywhere else, including Arizona. That's 2.5 points. But again, all of this is within any polling margin of error, and there's new polls even out this morning that would suggest a tighter race, even if that's possible here. And there are signs of discontent everywhere, particularly among voters for Donald Trump. But among all voters, 74% say that the country is on the wrong track going into Election Day. That includes half of Harris supporters, and wait for it, 98% of Trump voters say we are on the wrong track as a country. And 60% of voters say they are still dissatisfied with the candidates. And we finally found an area of bipartisan unity. 61% of Harris supporters and 57% of Trump supporters agree that they are dissatisfied with the candidates. They are voting.
Damn, dog. I thought people loved Harris's campaigning. I thought that they thought that she was hot. That's crazy. I wonder why people are saying that. I wonder how we got here again, dude. How the did that happen? Now, listen, and I've repeated this time and time again. She is not Hillary Clinton, okay? She doesn't have the metric ton of dissatisfaction, distaste, anger, resentment, hatred, and conspiracy theories that Hillary Clinton had, which is why it was insane for the Democratic Party to be like, this is the candidate and you're going to shut the fuck up and you're going to vote for her. Okay. She didn't have that. She doesn't have that, which is why, this is not the end all be all. Okay. Not the worst thing. She, however, is not a very good campaigner. She's just not. She's not very, doesn't have a lot of riz. She's black. America's racist. Oh, no, for sure. That definitely plays a role. America's also sexist too. But guess what? What do I always tell incels? Okay. You don't look at the situation. You don't look at a situation that's like built against you and turn around and say, well, any guy can be 7. I do say that. You got to play to your advantages and you got to overcome your disadvantages. That's it. I would never be like, oh, this person is a black woman, so she shouldn't run for president, especially if they have dope policies. You know what I mean? It don't matter. Like what? You think she didn't realize that America was racist and that she was a black woman running in a racist country? No, of course she knows that. What the fuck? That's precisely the reason why she didn't do the I'm with her style in the way that Hillary Clinton did. Okay? So, I don't think the race is going to be close. I don't understand why they don't factor in the Supreme Court and Congress when they talk about the country being on the wrong track. No. Country being on the wrong track is an understandable predicament, understandable position for people to take. I mean, do you think the country's on the right track? I don't. You know what I mean? I don't think the country's on the right track. I get it. I get why people say that because it's not on the right track. The wheels have fallen off this.
Voting on this week.
Wow. And Rick, as for the battleground states, what are the candidates eyeing?
You consistently said that Hillary ran a bull campaign. What was it about her that made you a supporter of her back in the day? What do you mean? I was incredibly critical of Hillary Clinton and talked about how dog shit she was. But I also understood what it would look like for Donald Trump to be president. And I was right. And that's why I was like, yeah, no, you can't, I like that you said a major supporter of Hillary Clinton. I was like, no, this is unacceptable. You cannot have Donald Trump become president. That is devastating. That is devastating for the country's future. And I was right. Okay.
As their likeliest paths to victory at this point.
Yeah, and you heard Selena lay it out a little bit, but if the polls lined up exactly where things are in the Electoral College, if the polls are right, which is a big if, you'd have Donald Trump winning right now. 287 electoral votes, that's more than 270. But the polls, of course, are often off a little bit. So here's the scenario that Selena was talking about, the blue wall. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, if they all go for Kamala Harris, that is 270 electoral votes exactly. That means the presidency for her. For Donald Trump, a couple of different paths, but the likeliest, let's say he carries Nevada and Arizona, where he's been leading in the polling averages, Georgia and North Carolina in the South, historically more Republican. He just needs one more state, and it could be any of the big 3. Pennsylvania, the likeliest and the biggest prize. That is the biggest battleground, and it is close to a must-win as we see for both candidates. There's agreement on that this year as well.
And Rick, we were talking about this behind the scenes this morning, that poll out of Iowa that now shows Harris leapfrogging, leading Trump. 3%. What can we? So
this is because Seltzer is like a very reputable pollster. People were looking at Iowa being deep red, normally. People were looking at this poll and being like, oh, it'll be like +5. If it's like +5 Trump, that is good for Kamala, right? That means that there is a lot of still like resentment for Donald Trump from the base. Maybe some people are not going to go out and vote. And people were looking to extract some kind of data from this that would be helpful for a national snapshot of what the broader electorate looks like. So for this poll to just come out +3 for Kamala Harris, okay, it was nutty. Guy for interpreting the Iowa Seltzer poll. Trump +0 to 5, great sign for Harris. Trump 6 to 7, solid result for Harris. Trump 8 to 9, +8 to 9, neutral. Mirrors close Rust Belt polling. Trump +10, not good for Harris. Anything more than 12 and is Jover. This is before the poll came out. That's what the That's what the analysis was. Because, like, Iowa is, like, supposed to be super red. Well, maybe not super red, but, like, red enough. Iowa allowing huge innovations in fuck-ass map science. Caitlin Clark is Iowa's GOAT. Huge asterisk, +3 within the margin of error, so it was better to call this a dead even poll than Harris ahead by 3. It doesn't matter. The point is, this is unexpected. This doesn't mean that, like, Texas is going to turn blue or whatever. Okay? This doesn't mean that at all. What this simply says is that Trump's base in, like, deep red places, at least, like, in the middle of the country, is kind of withering away a little bit in comparison to, like, places like Florida where he's obviously cooking. Okay? Like, I don't think Kansas is going to turn blue. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying that things are not looking good in Trump world. And you can tell that things are not looking good in Trump world because they're freaking the out over this. And early voting data showing, like, a lot of women coming out and voting also does not look good for the Trump world. Because the Trump world keeps complaining about how men need to go out and vote. Please go out and vote. If you don't vote, you're gay. Like, Iowa voters in 2024 for some reason.
Black woman is speaking. Listen and learn. Listen and learn.
Anyway, do you think the other big pollsters are just hurting with a conservative Harris lead? I mean, that's the assumption right now. I mean, that's like, and pollsters have said as much. Like, they do have a Trump bump that they baked in because they don't want to fuck it up. I'm really glad it's close. And they keep saying it's tied. It will get more people to vote. Remember in 2016, they said Hillary had a 90% chance to win. And I think it hurt her chances. A lot of people just decided not to vote. Yeah, there were a lot of issues there. I think the lack of motivation to go out and vote wasn't because Hillary's definitely going to win. I think it was people also despising her and despising Donald Trump too, but definitely despising her. My favorite Iowa meme, Pennsylvania. We're the nation's closest swing state. We don't like Trump, but Kamala hates fracking. This is so difficult. Iowa. It's just, these memes are so stupid. Anyway, let's continue.
Glean from that.
Yeah, well, just for starters, remember where Iowa landed last time. That was not particularly close, about an 8 or 9 point win for Donald Trump. And it's possible that this poll is on to something powerful. It could be an outlier, it could be off. But if it's right, not just about Iowa, but about some other upper Midwestern states like Wisconsin and Michigan, if we start to see women break more heavily toward Kamala Harris, that might change the landscape on election night. We'll have to wait and see, Janae.
Very interesting. Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah.
News.
Oh man, libs are libbing the up. You can tell the right wing doesn't think they're doing well. Your boy Alex Jones is back. Yeah, that's dude.
You know.
Oh my god, he looks extra red. He kind of looks better now than he ever has, but also in this video he looks super red. Other key findings in the Iowa poll: independent women back Harris by a 28-point margin. Senior women support her by more than a 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%. 97% of Dems support Harris, while only 89% of Republicans support Trump. I love old people now. Nah. Iowa had abortion protected by state courts. Then just days before Dobbs, the Iowa State Supreme Court struck that right down. The GOP passed a 6-week abortion ban. It was upheld by the state Supreme Court this summer. This is the first election since that ruling. And here's what I think is being slept on this fall. There's a state Supreme Court justice in Iowa who's on the ballot in Tuesday. He sided with the majority in his 4-3 upholding of the abortion ban this summer. As a reminder, there are also state justices who upheld the abortion bans this year on the ballot in Florida and Arizona. In Arizona, the GOP has put a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would nullify those elections. If Kamala wins white women vote, it is an abortion. She should think it's Taylor Swift. No, dude. 80-year-old women are not voting for Kamala Harris because of Taylor Swift. They're not playing in their abortion ads.
Dr. Davis, what do I do?
John, she needs an abortion or she's going to die from the pregnancy.
Sorry, that's not happening.
What are you doing? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we banned abortion. No exceptions.
You can't do this. She's dying.
I won the last election.
Okay, this is crazy because it's like this is kind of funny, but it's a real thing that's happening. So it's kind of up to make this. It's kind of up to make it in this way where it almost feels like comical. Like this is not hyperbole. This is not the A24 style horror flick that we saw with the other like cop pulling a young lady over with her dad when they're crossing the state border.
So it's my decision. But don't worry, you can still have children, just not with her.
Have you seen the thing with Turkey? No.
Wir versprechen Ihnen, dass wir die Kommunisten, Marxisten, Faschisten und die linksradikalen Verbrecher, die wie Ungeziefer in unser...
Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on. Wait, are you guys getting let me make sure that we have the do we have the sensitive content warning up or not? Do you guys have it? You see it? The tag is up? Okay, just want to make sure that the sensitivity tag is on. Okay, good. Hey, Chad, someone tell me where to read about what the +3 for Harris means. Just trying to figure this out for myself. Chatter is looking for the truth. He's like, this ass Hasan, get him out of here. Like my entire coverage has been afforded to just like explaining to you exactly what that means. And he's like, I don't really care about this. I don't really care what you have to say. I like it though. It's good. Seek it out on your own.
unserem Landleben ausrotten werden. Aber wir holen sie nicht aus den verseuchten Ländern. Ich weiß nicht, ob man sie Menschen nennen kann. In einigen Fällen sind es meiner Meinung nach keine Menschen, sondern Tiere. Sie vergiften das Blut unseres Landes.
Yeah, they're poisoning the blood of this country is like a direct verbatim Hitler bar. So that's like, that was pretty crazy. That was pretty crazy.
Wir werden die Abschiebeaktion durchführen. Wenn ich nicht gewählt werde, wird es ein
I mean, I think they're just saying Donald Trump's this is a Trump speech just in German, but the enemy from within poisoning the blood of this nation, like America for Americans. Those are all direct, verbatim, not paraphrased Hitler bars. Okay? Straight up. So when people go, oh, dude, you're being hyperbolic. Like, no. That's just straightforward. Okay?
Ich bin eure Vergeltung. Ich möchte nur einen Tag lang Diktator sein.
Hasan, I'm a canvasser in North Carolina. If you gotten, oh my God, I will vote for Donald Trump stuck in my head, and I've been singing it on the field. If North Carolina goes red, it's your fault. North Carolina +10 red. I made every North Carolina canvasser have the song stuck in their goddamn heads. It's not my fault. It's a banger, dude. What do you mean? What the do you mean, dude? You can't be getting mad at me for that.
Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump.
We don't do ad breaks anymore. We just do I will vote for Donald Trump breaks where I tell you to subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. You know what I mean? Or you can get gifted a sub as well. That way you can send me links and I will keep playing this banger. You can send me this link as a banger to play. What is this? It's over.
The people go out to vote, no fear, no more. Vote for Trump. Let's go. Vote for Trump.
So good, dude. Benign Burger. D Machine, thank you for the 5 gifted. Benign Burger, thank you for the 20 gifted subs. Calm Like a Tom, thank you for the 10 gifted subs. Oh, God. Oh, no. They were expecting thousands of people at the JD Vance rally with Don Jr. in Pennsylvania. Only tens of people showed up. Oh, no. Oh, no. Socialist Thug Jane, thank you for the 5 gifted. Not a good sign. Oh my God, I will vote. I will vote for Donald Trump. Thing is, it is kind of extreme to link a person with those guys just because your ideas are nationalist, don't you think? Brother, what do you... I hate this argument so much. I hate it so much. You're literally saying there is no reason to learn about history in order not to repeat the mistakes of the past, okay? Someone does not have to have a goofy ass mustache and you can present the situation like as the final solution being activated for you to be like, okay, now he's Hitler. Like, what do you mean? I hate this dumbass argument, dude. You think they still weren't before they killed 6 million Jews? Like, how do you think we got there? Why do you think there is like laws and guidelines surrounding what constitutes a Jew that Israel is violating on a regular basis? But that's besides the point. The entire goal is to stop it from happening before it actually gets to that point. You know, all you're saying to me in this circumstance, okay? All you're saying to me in this circumstance is like, you're basically saying, let Trump mass deport and maybe execute a couple million migrants first before you can correctly call him a or Adolf Hitler. And like, how many millions does he have to kill before you decide, okay, he is Adolf Hitler? Okay? Because, you know, not only is he quoting Hitler, but his policies are also one-to-one directly Adolf Hitler. Okay? It's not like Adolf Hitler originally started with like, we're going to kill every Jewish person. You know, he definitely wanted that for sure. But the original goals of the government was to do mass deportations as well. Okay? Like, you don't arrive at let's execute every single migrant before you arrive at they're dehumanized, they're not real humans, they're eating cats and dogs, they're doing barbaric, horrifying. Okay? You kind of have to get there. You kind of have to gear the crowd up to be open to the mass execution policies. There's a reason why it's called the final solution and not the first solution. Okay? This kind of stuff is just like very, very stupid. It's just like anti-intellectual in terms of conducting yourself, in terms of like launching an argument. And it's especially funny because like I made these arguments in 2016 about Donald Trump because I thought that there was enough there in terms of his dehumanizing rhetoric towards migrants in 2016. And he has only increased the pressure, and he has only quoted Adolf Hitler more, and chatters are still going, I don't know. Radical police, radical, wee woo, you're being too radical for Twitch, informed Dan Clancy. Yeah. This interview with of a German Post, World War II hits your point exactly how violence is ratcheted and normalized. From Milton Mayer, what no one seemed to notice at a colleague of mine, philologist, was the ever widening gap after 1933 between the government and the people. Just think how very wide this gap was to begin with here in Germany, and it became always wider. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't make people close to their government to be told that this is a people's government, a true democracy, or to be enrolled in civilian defense, or even to vote. All this has really nothing to do with knowing one is governing. What happened here was the gradual habituation of the people, little by little, to being governed by surprise, to receiving decisions deliberated in secret, to believing that the situation was so complicated that the government had to act on information which the people could not understand, or so dangerous that even if the people could not understand it, it could not be released because of national security. And in their sense of identification with Hitler, their trust in him made it easier to widen this gap and reassured those who would otherwise have worried about it. The separation of government from the people, this widening of the gap, took place so gradually and so insensibly, each step disguised, perhaps not even intentionally, as a temporary emergency measure. I mean, this is like post 9/11 America and the normalization of like American war, no matter how bloody or how deadly. There's a direct comparison here with Israel as well and what Israel is doing currently. There's a direct comparison with like post 9/11 America and America's like attitude change. But But yeah, in terms of like the way that Donald Trump talks about immigrants and how he lies about immigrants without any sort of pushback whatsoever, you know, it's legitimately terrifying. And there are still chatters in here being like, I don't know, man. You can't really call him a like, yeah, you can. And you should, because it's correct.
Des Moines Register is out with a brand new poll conducted by Jan Selzer's firm. This, as you know, is the gold standard of polling in Iowa, and it shows Vice President Harris with a 3-point lead over Donald Trump in that state. Harris has the support of 47% of likely voters to Trump's 44%. That result within the margin of error.
A gulf had opened up between the Jewish minority and the general population. The latter, while not mobilized around strident and violent anti-Semitism, was increasingly apathetic, passive, and indifferent to the fate of the former. Origins of the final solution. Yeah. Slowly but surely, you increase the pressure that you and you consistently dehumanize the outgroup over and over again, and people just kind of turn a blind eye. This is why I am genuinely terrified about the liberal rhetoric surrounding the issue of immigration. With no counterbalance, with no pushback whatsoever. What about the squirrels, though? What squirrels, man? Shut the up. Oh, my God. Why are people so goddamn annoying? What is that? The one squirrel that was euthanized or some shit? I know. It's up, okay? Shut up. Yeah, they killed the squirrel. I know. It's really up. I agree. But like time and place, dude. Me, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Some of you are literally the Hawk Tua understanders in the chat. How is it any different than that shit? It's just like literally another another one of those things that like coworkers love and talk about endlessly and relentlessly. And if chatters are badgering me with it. It's viral on the conservative side of Twitter and has not broke through to the liberal side. Nobody cares. I just like don't understand why we're having this conversation right now.
Joining us now, pollster Jan Selzer.
Coworker ass chatters in the chat. Jesus Christ.
All right. Jan, obviously you are bringing, we're coming on air right now with this polling. And I mean, we could just put it up on the screen for folks because I didn't have this on my bingo card, as I like to say. Vice President Kamala Harris, 47%, Donald Trump, 44%. Take us inside your poll. What is new here? We know that there's a majority of Iowa men in this poll that say they prefer Trump. A majority of women prefer Harris. Among likely Iowa voters, this seems like something is happening.
It does seem like something's happening. Now, we've been living with the numbers day by day as we've been gathering the data. So we've had a little bit of time to get over the initial shock. You know, Iowa is a very Republican state. There's only one person at statewide office or federal office who is a Democrat. So to have the presidential candidate lead by a substantive margin was shocking to begin with. One of the reasons she is leading is because of her strength with women generally, even stronger with women age 65 and over. Her margin is more than 2-1. And this is an age group that shows up to vote or votes early in disproportionately large numbers. So it's a bit of the boost that Kamala Harris has gotten this time.
For me, this is very telling of a lot of the effort and the importance of a little thing called ground game. And when a campaign...
Okay, why are you talking about Iowa? What kind of... I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm wrong on this, but what kind of ground game does Iowa have for the Democratic Party? Is there like a tremendous amount of work and tremendous amount of effort being placed? Maybe tomorrow and today, but... like, what is the Democratic Party's ground game in Iowa? I'm sure they're pumping a shit ton. You're wrong. I'm sure they're pumping a shit ton of ads. They have a lot of money, dude. The Democrats have a lot of money. The leftover Obama squad put in the BAM bag together. Local Iowa Dems have been working hard, to be honest. Don't they have infrastructure there because of the Iowa caucus? Surely there's lots of volunteers there. What is this? Ohio Sheriff's lieutenant in hot water as a social post. I'm sorry, if you support the Democratic Party, I will not help you. And the problem is that I know which of you supports the Democratic Party, and I will not help you survive in the end days. That's awesome. That's so funny, dude. These people are so, God, I love hogs so much. Why do I love hogs so much? Oh my God. Oh my God, I love my hogs. Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. Yeah. Did you see Trump coping about Iowa? Yeah. Yeah. I know. We're going to get there. Hold on.
Coming in with 107 days to make the case to communities across the country, and we know the importance of communities like ours. Iowa is a bellwether, particularly as you get closer to the election, as it is in the beginning, right? So here we are at the end. What's your take on that aspect of this, that the numbers have changed so dramatically from the 18 points that Donald Trump had to now Kamala Harris over Joe Biden, the 18 points, to now having Kamala Harris up by 3?
It's, clearly there's something going on here if our poll numbers are correct. And it's the same method that I've used really since I started polling. So we have a good accuracy rate. We're comfortable with what it is that we do, which is to allow our data to reveal to us what's happening with the future electorate. So that may be the little lucky charm here, is that we're able to uncover the change that's happening on the ground. We certainly know anecdotally, as you drive around the metro area, you see far more, I guess I'd say far fewer Trump signs than we've seen in past cycles. But, it's hard to put too much faith in that. So now we have some hard numbers. We'll see. I will just mention that neither of these candidates gets to 50%. So there still is some swing left to be determined on election night.
It has been fun to watch all of the folks who follow polls on Twitter try to decide what your poll means for other states. And so I wonder, when you look at white voters specifically, if you think there is something in your poll that you can extrapolate out to Michigan, to Wisconsin, to Pennsylvania.
Well, as your graphics are showing, there is clearly a gender gap there. Iowa is predominantly white, so there's not much analysis we can do on the non-white vote. But I think what it does say is that polls that are deciding that they know what the future electorate looks like may be basing it on past electorates. And in some cases, that would give Harris an advantage, and in some states, that would give Kamala Harris an advantage, or some would give Donald Trump the advantage. So we'll see how that plays out. I just feel like these numbers represent, our last poll in September had Trump leading by just a 4-point margin, when Joe Biden back in June had lost by an 18-point margin. So we're certainly seeing an upward, almost linear shift in the Democratic strength in Iowa.
Jan, I just want to note that the only Democrat elected statewide in Iowa, Rob Sand, when your poll came out, he texted me, and Rob has been saying for a very long time, he is the state auditor, that there have been many close losses in Iowa, and Iowa is in fact a place that's in play for Democrats. And this poll to me indicates perhaps Rob Sand is right, by putting in the work, infrastructure, as Chairman Steele just noted. Have Democrats made Iowa more competitive because of their presence there, and also the issue of reproductive rights? 21%
shift because of abortion seems a bit much, though. The only way to analyze this is, one, the women voters, older voters in general, and also the fact that Trump might be depressing Iowa voters with his rhetoric in general. But abortion is pretty consequential. And Donald Trump is running a dog shit campaign. The Democratic Party really hasn't done shit here, and honestly, the state party hasn't done much shit either. More the local county party apparatuses. We hate our governor, so we've been trying to flip our local Congress. That possibly trickled up to the top of the ticket. Source, M. Iowan.
because that was something that bubbled up on the ground throughout the state, namely led by the governor herself.
Right. Well, I would mention that Rob Sand is that one Democrat elected statewide. So he's got his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the Democratic Party. As we were trying to determine, this is a very short poll because there's no time left to write lengthy stories with lots of data in them. So we don't have as much data as we might like about why this is happening. But our
Farmers hate Trump. He actually ruined their lives for years. I've heard this a lot, but like, if that was the case, then Donald Trump wouldn't have gotten 53% of the vote in Iowa to Joe Biden's 44%, 45% of the vote. You know what I mean? Like in 2020, Donald Trump still won Iowa convincingly, right? So I have heard this argument. That aren't popular for the farmers, but you also have to remember, like, there aren't that many of them. That's number one. And like, it demonstrably did not move the results. And you also have to remember, a lot of these rural voters are not farmers, okay? They just LARP as farmers, but they're not. Yeah, hold on. Let's just finish this and then I'll get to like the way that Trump is behaving and why I think it's like hurting him. Okay? Because Donald Trump is also going kind of crazy. He's going nutty mode, and it's not good. It's not looking too good for him in Trump world. Trump world is coping pretty hard on this shit. And yeah, we'll do hogwash later as well. Okay, let's continue.
Census from the reporters who work this beat
I haven't done
is that
SNL
the
yet.
6-month abortion ban went into effect just this past summer. And so I think as Iowans are starting to see the consequences of that, I think it has gotten people interested in voting. The thing we noticed in our September poll that shrunk Trump's lead by 14 percentage points, he lost no actual ground. He had as many respondents supporting him in September as he had in June, but the size of the likely voter pool had increased, and most of that 85 respondents went to Kamala Harris.
So Jan, let's talk about sort of the why, because that's the world I like to live in as a former party official. Is okay, why are voters doing what they're doing? Organization, as we just talked about, you and Simone, that sort of planning that is all good and smart. It's all critically important. But the why narrative tells us a lot of the inside thoughts of the voters. And there are two aspects of the messaging here that feeds into the why. For the Trump people, the narrative that they tried to get up and out in front of voters was, are you better off, right, than you were 4 years ago? For the Harris campaign, it was a different kind of approach. It was, okay, I want you to size the two of us up. And you tell me which one you think is going to be better suited to take care of the nation's interests over their own. And I'm curious as you look at them, I'm sure you're going to peel back on these numbers a little bit more, but do you get a sense of the why in that space that the voters looked at the messaging here as a way to sort of the carrot that led them to where we are right now?
Well, I think that question about are you better off, that people tend to think, well, that's your pocketbook. There are other ways that people are not better off. And again, I go back to the Dobbs decision and the 6-week abortion ban, which put women of childbearing age into a danger zone, some might feel it's that way. The thing I need to point out, and it was pointed out to me by one of the Register reporters, is that this change, I think, is largely organic. That is, the presidential campaigns haven't visited. They're not putting money into this state. So that it's not that this is something that has been created by the campaigns themselves. I think was largely written off, which is why this poll is such a surprise. So I think there's something more organic that people are deciding for themselves. This is the time I'm going to get off the bench. I'm going to show up, and that it appears from my data.
My boyfriend is a registered Republican, and he has stupid head-ass Trump stickers on his car. He said to me today, don't worry, he's not going to win. Damn. Another truth nuke. Another truth bomb coming in hot. Trump supporters are depressed. She's saying what you said 5 minutes ago, lol. Yeah, because I mean, she's a pollster, and I understand what the she's talking about. I already gave you the analysis as to why these people are these people are popping off.
That is happening more on the people deciding to vote for Kamala Harris, the
Stop
Democratic
jacking
candidate.
yourself off. What do you
As
mean?
a former pre-med student at Johns Hopkins University, I appreciate organic chemistry. J.Ann Seltzer, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Turning now to our brand new NBC News poll, national political.
How did no one see this or predict this before? I think that there are a lot of people who don't want to up as they have done. There is a crisis in consistently underestimating Trump's chances because of his capacity to hit low propensity voters and drive them out to vote. Okay? Having said that, however, I have kept telling you over and over again for the past couple of months that, like, while Kamala Harris is running objectively a bad campaign, are we gonna talk about Ethan? Love you. Chatter, it is November 3rd. I cannot begin to explain to you what is about to happen in the next 2 days. I am a political commentator. I think we're going to keep talking about the election. Please take a deep breath. Okay? Serious question. Do you think it's also media cherry picking to increase viewership and fearmonger? No.
Correspondent Steve Kornacki is here to walk us through all of the numbers. Steve, this is the moment we have been waiting for. What does this poll show us?
Yeah, I mean, fittingly, isn't it? At the very end, we find a tie nationally. 49% for Harris, 49% for Trump. Really, that's what we found when we last polled this a couple weeks ago. We go under the hood here and look at some of the other numbers there. There's this question of enthusiasm. A couple notable things here. This is the share of voters who are calling themselves very interested.
Do you like the cultivation of your current community when it comes to politics? Yes, I do. I love my community, and I love the community that I've cultivated. I think it's wonderful, and it basically keeps me alive. Okay?
In this election. You can see it stands at 77%, which is down from 2020 when we had that historic turnout. Also, interestingly here,
I don't think that these guys are keeping it 50-50 for some secret, like, material interest to keep the eyeballs on the election, or because they think that they want to, like, draw turnout. I think they are polling people, and they're adjusting the polls with a Trump bump because of previous polls always consistently underestimating Trump because of his likelihood of because of the ways in which Donald Trump brings low propensity voters to come out and vote for him. That's it. And I've been saying this already. I think that the reason why they're doing this is because they have underestimated Trump too many times, and they don't want to underestimate him again. So they're trying to do their very best. They don't want to look like they got owned. Kanal gördüm senin yayınını yayınlıyor. Bir kişi izliyor. Muhtemelen o malum yayıncının ezik kitlesi. Moderatorlara gönderirsen hangi kanal olduğunu banlarız. Ban çekeriz. Kardeş.
the interest is lower among Hispanic voters and black voters. Typically, you would say that is bad news for Democrats. But this year, keep in mind, among black voters, that could be very troubling for the Democrats. But among Hispanic voters, the Trump folks are hoping for big strides. They've been seeing that in the polls. If that does not translate into Election Day votes, that could be trouble for them. Then we come to the issues that voters say that matter most to them.
Polling is not cheap, but I don't think this comes at the expense of journalism. I think the way that the Times uses polling to drive subscription and grow audience pays for the journalism, not the other way around. I would, however, like to have a better idea of who's going to win. News orgs pour tons of resources into polling at the expense of covering real issues, only to say 2 days before the election, we really have no idea if we're right or wrong. A final point that I hope is obvious from the whole of my work, but may not be obvious if you only read individual snippets. I have no idea whether our polls or any polls might be right. Polls be right, too good for Harris or too good for Trump. No one does. This cycle, I've tried to offer real meat to these scenarios with evidence, not just abstract 30% Harris landslide, 30% Trump landslide, 40% too close. If you personally found some of that evidence more convincing than others, that's great. Me, I have no idea. This is why I'm Mr. vibes-based analysis post polls, okay? That's it. Because even like the top pollsters, like Nate Cohn is the poll guy for the New York Times. Dave Wasserman, poll guy. Even the top pollsters or the top analysts for polls is turning around and saying like, I really don't know what the happening here. To be fair, I've always sprinkled vibes-based analysis on top of the polls. I cannot express how insane it is that Trump does good numbers with Hispanic voters. It makes sense. New from the election center, a very clear picture. What? It's a joke, dude. Quick summation of some of the points. There's no reason to believe pollsters fix what went wrong in 2020. There is some evidence. Non-response bias may be better, but also evidence is still there / no reason to assume it's gone. Unknown whether waiting fixes. Many pollsters, not us, have adopted heavy-handed practices that yield more Republican-leaning samples out of potentially, but not necessarily justify fear of systematically failing to reach Trump voters again. This is what I've been saying, okay? A lot of pollsters underestimated bigly Donald Trump in 2016. They still underestimated him in 2020, okay? Donald Trump still outperformed the polls in 2020. The difference is Joe Biden won, just not by the margins that polls were showing him winning by. And that is precisely the reason why pollsters were like, well, you know, Trump is Mr. Turnout in the general, especially. So we got to do something about it. And I think that the reason why the 2022 midterm polls were a lot closer wasn't necessarily because they had pollsters had overcorrected or had figured it out. The reason why 2022 polls were a lot closer within striking distance than like 2020 was because midterms have high propensity voter turnout. Okay? Those guys are easier to predict. Those guys are easier to analyze. This is why I think that the midterm election polls were a lot closer to what ended up happening, whereas general election turnout is very different. Okay? That's it. That's the way I see it. And in order to, in my opinion, in order to make sure that they don't f up again in like, or even be closer to the margins of the end results, then even in 2020, they're overcorrecting with like at least a 2-point bump for Trump. And considering how close of a race this is, that obviously matters a lot. What the f? Atlas Intel Wisconsin poll, Trump picking up 65% of black voters. 65% of black voters. Look, Wisconsin is a weird state because it's like super rural. And that's why I've said out of like the blue wall, despite what the polls say, that's the one area that is the one state that is like, I think, trickier for the Democratic Party than the rest of the blue wall. Okay. That is an insane statement. There's 8 black people total in Wisconsin. It doesn't matter, dude. That's like 65% of the black voters, not just black men, 65% of all black voters. That is not, just specifically avoiding Milwaukee. Yeah. I'm from Wisconsin. I just don't believe that. Yeah, no, it's an insane. It also is weird because like 65% of black voters, only 24% of Hispanic voters is also crazy. And the Asian voters are split 50-50. Like, what the is going on in this poll, man? This is nutty. Misogyny voting for Trump is nasty work. No, this is not real, dude. What the dude. There is not a... Okay, remember what I told you guys about how there is not a single state in the United States of America, the continental United States, that is majority in favor of heavy restrictions on abortion, okay? I stand on that. I'll stand on that even if I don't see a poll. And I was correct. I was right when it came to Alabama, even though I hadn't seen a recent poll in Alabama, right? Remember that? This is another thing that I will tell you right now, okay? I have not seen any polls. I have not seen a single poll on the Wisconsin black population, okay? And I can assure you that there is not a single like, I mean, this is crosstabs anyway. And it just is, you know, this is just an unreliable ass poll overall, because I can tell you with a 100% certainty that there is not a single state where the majority of the black population, which also includes black women, okay, higher likelihood of voting and will vote by 80 to 90% for Kamala Harris. Like, the fact that black women and black men both are going to majority vote for Republicans is the most insane scenario. Okay. That is less likely than Texas and Florida flipping blue.